wallpaper when actually it was people's skins. So what was on the wall was people's real skins. So yeah, that was creepy when I first read it. Okay. Oh, this one's also good. Okay, this one's called I Hate It When My Brother Charlie Has to Go Away. Okay. I hate it when my brother Charlie has to go away. My parents constantly try to explain to me how sick he is, that I'm lucky for having a brain where all the chemicals flow properly to their destinations like undammed rivers. When I complain about how bored I am without a little brother to play with, they try to make me feel bad by pointing out that his boredom likely far surpasses mine. Considering his confined to a dark room in an institution, I always beg for them to give him one last chance. Of course, they did at first. Charlie has been back home several times, each shorter in duration than the last. Every time, without fail, it all starts again. The neighborhood cats with cocked out eyes showing up in his toy chest. My dad's razor bound dropped on the baby slide in the park across the street. Mom's vitamins replaced by bits of dishwasher tablets. My parents are hesitant now, using last chances sparingly. They say his disorder makes him charming, makes it easy for him to fake normalcy, and to trick the doctors who care for him into thinking he's ready for rehabilitation. That I would just have to put up with my boredom if it means staying safe from him. I hate it when Charlie has to go away. It makes me have to pretend to be good until he is back. Oh, I didn't like that one. So basically, the person, Charlie is not sick, his brother's not sick, it's him, the one that's telling the story. He's the one basically doing all these crazy things, but somehow blames it on his brother. Let's see. Seeing red the first day of school. Okay, let's do this one. Seeing red the first day of school. Okay. Everyone loves the first day of school, right? New year, new classes, new friends. It's a day full of potential and hope before all the dreary depressions of reality show up to ruin all the fun. I like the first day of school for a different reason though. You see, I have a sort of power. When I look at people, I can sense a sort of aura around them. A colored outline based on how long that person has to live. Oh, most everyone I meet around my age is surrounded by a solid green hue, which means they have plenty of time left. A fair amount of them have a yellow orangish thing to their auras, which tends to mean a car crash identity